Daniel had always been curious about the stars. Back on Earth, he often sat on rooftops looking up and wondering if other worlds carried lives as complex as his own. When the chance came to join a cultural exchange program to the alien world of Calith, he did not hesitate. His friends thought he was crazy to leave behind the safety of Earth for a strange planet, but Daniel felt this was the beginning of something far bigger than himself. Calith was a world of soaring crystal towers, endless forests glowing with bioluminescent light, and skies where twin moons watched over the people at night. The Calithians were taller than humans, with silver-toned skin and luminous eyes that shifted color with their emotions. They lived with a sense of tradition so old and deep that every story, every artifact, and every song seemed tied to the past. Among them, Daniel quickly made one true friend, Lyra. She was playful where others were reserved, and curious about humans in the same way Daniel was curious about her people. She liked to laugh at his clumsy attempts to understand Calith customs, yet she defended him whenever someone mocked his ignorance. For Daniel, Lyra was both a guide and a companion, and for Lyra, Daniel was a chance to see her own world through fresh eyes. One evening, Lyra invited him to her family home, an estate carved into the side of a mountain. The halls were lined with banners, ancient swords, and relics of warriors long gone. Her family was proud of its heritage, for they came from a line of guardians who had once defended Calith during great wars. Daniel, walking among the relics, felt as though he had stepped into a museum where every object carried whispers of history. Lyra teased him as they walked through the great hall. "See these?" she said, pointing at a long row of suits of armor, each resting on stands of black stone. "These belong to my ancestors, warriors who could command storms, bend energy, and protect cities from destruction. Now they are only symbols, silent, empty shells." Daniel stared in awe. The armor was beautiful, unlike anything he had ever seen. Smooth plates carved with strange patterns seemed almost alive. One in particular drew his gaze. It stood taller than him, gleaming with faint traces of light. "That one," he said softly. "It looks like it's waiting for someone." Lyra laughed. "Waiting? Maybe, but not for you, human. These armors no longer answer anyone. Even my father, who trained for years, could not wake them. They are nothing but decoration now." She paused, then smirked mischievously. "Unless you want to try it on." Daniel blinked. "Me? You're joking." "Of course I am," she said with a grin. "But think of the story. A human wearing Calith war armor. You would look ridiculous." He chuckled nervously. "Your family wouldn't mind? They will think it is a game. Besides, the armor is only a shell. It cannot hurt you. Come, let me help." Before he could object, Lyra tapped a sequence of hidden controls on the pedestal. With a hiss, the armor opened, its chest plate parting as if inviting someone inside. Daniel stepped forward hesitantly, his heart racing. He told himself this was only a joke, nothing serious, but some part of him felt the moment carried weight. He climbed into the suit. The plates folded around him with surprising ease, adjusting to his smaller frame. For a second, nothing happened. Lyra snickered. "See? Just a pile of metal. You look like a child in your father's coat." But then the air changed, a low hum rose from the suit. Symbols engraved across the plates began to glow. Lines of light tracing paths like rivers of fire. Daniel gasped as warmth spread through his body. Not painful, but alive. The suit tightened, sealing with a sound like thunder, and suddenly he felt weightless. Lyra's smile vanished. What is happening?" The armor's visor lowered over Daniel's face, and his vision filled with streams of data he could not understand. His heart pounded. He tried to speak, but the suit spoke for him in a deep, resonant tone that echoed through the hall. "Bearer accepted." Gasps filled the chamber. Daniel turned and saw Lyra's family standing at the doorway. Her father, tall and stern, stared with wide eyes. Her grandmother dropped the staff she carried, the sound echoing like a crack of lightning. Lyra stepped back, her luminous eyes shifting rapidly from silver to bright gold, the color of shock. This is impossible," she whispered. "No Calith in centuries has awakened the guardian armor, and now it answers to a human." The armor's glow spread across the hall, lighting the banners and relics as though history itself had awakened. Daniel, trapped inside, felt a rush of energy coursing through him, sharpening his senses. He could hear distant sounds, feel the pulse of the building, even sense Lyra's quickening breath. It was overwhelming, yet strangely natural, as if the armor had always been waiting for him. Her father stepped forward slowly, his voice heavy with disbelief. For generations, our people tried and failed. The guardian armor belongs to our bloodline. Yet you, a stranger from another world, wear it as though chosen. Daniel stammered, his voice breaking through the suit systems. I didn't mean to, Lyra said it was a joke. But the armor's voice interrupted again. Chosen bearer detected. Lineage irrelevant. Purpose aligned. The word silenced the room. No one dared move. Lyra looked at Daniel, her earlier mischief gone, replaced by awe and a flicker of fear. She whispered, Daniel, what have we done? The suit released a final pulse of light and then the glow dimmed, leaving only a faint shimmer across its surface. The hum quieted, but the weight of the moment remained heavy. Daniel stood trembling, no longer laughing. He had only stepped into the armor for fun, but now he could feel the truth. The joke had awakened something that was never meant to sleep. The hall remained silent until Lyra's grandmother finally spoke, her voice trembling but firm. The prophecy, she murmured. It begins again. Daniel looked at Lyra, confusion swirling in his eyes. He had no idea what prophecy she meant. All he knew was that he had come to Calith as a guest, a student, nothing more. But the armor had chosen him, and from the fearful stares around him, he realized this choice would change everything. The next morning, Daniel woke with his head heavy, as though he had not slept at all. He looked around the guest chamber in Lyra's family estate, and saw the faint shimmer of light leaking through the curtains. For a moment he thought it had been a dream. The armor, the strange glow, the voice that declared him the chosen bearer. But when he shifted his hand, he noticed faint lines glowing faintly under his skin, like hidden circuits that pulsed with his heartbeat. His breath caught. It's real, he whispered. Lyra entered quietly, carrying a tray of food. Her usual playful smile was absent. Instead, her eyes were sharp with worry. She placed the tray on the table. You are awake, good. Daniel sat up. What happened yesterday? I didn't mean, I know, Lyra interrupted. You thought it was only a joke. But the armor did not treat it as one. She folded her arms, her gaze troubled. The guardian armor has been silent for 500 years. My father tried, my brother tried, many in our family tried. None of us could wake it. Yet you, a human, you touched it and it came alive. Daniel shook his head. I don't understand. Why me? Before Lyra could answer, a deep voice filled the chamber. Her father, Lord Kalen, stepped inside, his tall figure wrapped in ceremonial robes. His silver-toned face was stern. That is what we intend to discover. Behind him, 2 guards entered, not hostile but watchful. Daniel's pulse quickened. He felt like a criminal brought before judgment. Lord Kalen continued, The Council of Elders has summoned you. They wish to see with their own eyes if this is truth or illusion. You will come with us, Daniel swallowed hard. And if I refuse? Then you prove you are unworthy, Kalen said flatly. And the armor will be taken from you by force if possible. Lyra frowned at her father. He is not our enemy. It was my idea, my dare. Do not punish him for this. Kalen's expression softened slightly toward his daughter, but his words remained heavy. This is not about punishment. It is about destiny and danger. If the guardian armor accepts him, then he carries a burden we cannot ignore. The council chamber was vast, built of black stone with walls covered in star charts and ancient weapons. 13 elders sat in a circle, their eyes glowing in colors of suspicion, curiosity, and unease. Daniel stood in the center with Lyra by his side. One of the elders, a woman with eyes like burning gold, spoke first. So this is the human? The one who wears what our people could not? Daniel shifted nervously. Yes, ma'am. I guess. The elder frowned. He speaks without strength. This cannot be the guardian's choice. Another elder raised his hand. Let us see. Summon the armor. Daniel hesitated, but Lyra touched his arm gently. Breathe. Just think of it. The armor is bound to you now. He closed his eyes, uncertain, and then felt a surge of warmth. The faint glowing lines under his skin brightened, and in a flash of light, the guardian armor formed around him, plate by plate, until he stood fully encased. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The suit's deep voice rumbled again. Bearer recognized. Systems aligned. The council erupted in whispers. Some eyes glowed blue with awe, others red with anger. One elder slammed his staff against the floor. This is unacceptable. A human is not Calith. He has no claim to our relics, our power. But another spoke calmly. And yet the armor chose him. Would you defy the will of the ancients? Daniel raised his hands, his voice shaky but honest. I didn't ask for this. I don't even know what it means. All I know is that when I put it on, I felt connected. Like it was teaching me, like it wanted me to listen. The armor hummed, as if agreeing. Lyra stepped forward. Perhaps the old stories are true. The prophecy says, when the stars fall silent, one beyond our bloodline shall awaken the guardian. Maybe this is what it meant. Maybe Daniel is part of that destiny. The golden-eyed elder scoffed. Prophecies are riddles. They twist meaning to fit any moment. I will not trust our future to riddles or to an alien boy. Kalen spoke firmly. Then let us test him. The armor once trained warriors through trials of strength, mind, and spirit. If he is truly chosen, he will endure them. If not, the armor will reject him. The council agreed. Daniel felt his knees weaken. Trials? Tests of strength and spirit? He had come to Calith to study culture, not to prove himself as a warrior. Yet now he saw no escape. The armor had chosen him, and the Calith people demanded proof. That night, Daniel sat with Lyra in the gardens outside the estate. Strange, glowing flowers surrounded them, and the air was filled with the soft hum of insect-like creatures. Daniel leaned against a stone bench. I don't know if I can do this. I'm not a warrior. I'm just me. Lyra studied him, her eyes softer now. Do not underestimate yourself. You think you are ordinary, but the armor does not answer to ordinary. It saw something in you. He shook his head. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it should have chosen one of your people. She leaned closer. The armor is ancient, but it is not foolish. It does not mistake. Perhaps it chose you because you are different, because you are human. Sometimes strength is not in blood, but in heart. Her words gave him a small spark of courage. Suddenly, Daniel felt a rush of energy. The armor activated on its own, covering him again in light. This time visions filled his mind. Images of great battles, cities crumbling, and Calith warriors fighting with desperate courage. He saw the armor itself, glowing like a shield against shadows. And then he saw himself, standing alone against darkness, his face hidden beneath the visor. He gasped and fell back, trembling. Lyra caught his arm. What did you see? Daniel's voice was unsteady. I saw a war. I saw destruction. And I saw me. In the middle of it, Lyra's eyes darkened with concern. Then the prophecy is not only words, it is warning. The darkness will come again. And you are meant to face it. Daniel looked at her, his chest tight with fear and wonder. But why me? I'm not Calith. I'm not a hero. Lyra squeezed his hand gently. Perhaps you do not need to be Calith. Perhaps being human is exactly what makes you the hero we need. The next day, the council gathered again to begin the first trial. Daniel walked into the chamber with Lyra at his side, his heart racing but his steps steady. The elders watched with piercing eyes. The golden-eyed elder spoke coldly. Human, the armor may have chosen you, but the trials will decide if you are worthy. Should you fail, the armor will be sealed away forever and you will be cast out. Daniel nodded slowly. He had no choice but to face what lay ahead. As the chamber doors closed behind him, he whispered under his breath, I hope the armor knows what it's doing. The guardian armor hummed quietly, like a heartbeat in his ears. The true awakening had only just begun. The trial chamber was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. Carved deep into the mountain, it glowed with lines of ancient energy that ran across the walls like veins of light. Strange machines hummed quietly as if waiting for something. The council elders stood above in a balcony, watching silently while Lyra stood close to the entrance, her eyes filled with both hope and fear. Daniel stood in the center, the guardian armor already wrapped around him. He could feel its pulse in his chest, steady and alive, almost like a second heartbeat. He whispered under his breath, Please don't let me fail. An elder raised a staff. Begin the trial of worth. The floor shifted. Suddenly, walls rose around Daniel, creating a labyrinth of shifting passages. The armor spoke in its deep voice. Test 1, strength of body. Daniel's first challenge came quickly. A massive machine shaped like a beast of stone and metal charged at him. Its glowing eyes locked on him and its heavy steps shook the ground. Daniel's instinct screamed at him to run, but the armor guided his body, moving faster than he ever thought possible. He dodged to the side, rolled, and struck with his fist. To his shock, the blow landed with enough force to crack the beast's armor. Sparks flew and the machine staggered back. Daniel's eyes widened. I did that? The beast roared and attacked again, but Daniel's movements grew sharper. He jumped higher than a human should, dodged strikes that would have crushed him, and hit with blows that shook the air. With one final strike, he drove the machine into the wall. It collapsed, sparks fading, the trial complete. The armor spoke again. Strength of body, proven. Above, some elders nodded in reluctant approval. Others looked unsettled. Lyra's eyes glowed with pride. The labyrinth shifted again. The walls dissolved into mist, and Daniel now found himself in a wide chamber filled with illusions, shadows of warriors, each moving toward him. The armor's voice boomed. Test 2, strength of mind. The illusions surrounded him. Some looked like Kalith warriors in full armor. Others looked like creatures of nightmare with twisted shapes and glowing red eyes. Daniel's breathing quickened. He knew these could not be real, but his heart still pounded with fear. The first shadow lunged at him and Daniel struck, but his hand passed through empty air. Another attacked, and again he failed to hit. The shadows multiplied, voices whispering in his ears, "You are not worthy. You are weak. You are only human." Daniel fell to his knees, covering his ears. Doubt consumed him. Maybe they were right. Maybe he did not belong here. Then he heard another voice, soft but steady. Lyra's voice echoing in his memory. Sometimes strength is not in blood, but in heart. Daniel closed his eyes, forcing himself to breathe. This is not real. These are lies. I don't need to fight shadows. He stood tall, ignoring the illusions. He walked straight through them, their whispers fading. The moment he refused to believe in their power, the shadows dissolved into nothing. The armor's voice rumbled. Strength of mind. Proven. Now, the chamber grew dark. A single flame appeared before Daniel, small and fragile. The armor spoke. Test 3, strength of spirit. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? The flame flickered, and suddenly the ground shook. From the shadows, a massive figure emerged. A giant machine like the first beast, but larger, with claws that glowed like fire. It struck at the flame, trying to extinguish it. Daniel realized the truth. His task was not to defeat the beast, but to protect the flame. He stood in front of it, raising his arms. The beast attacked, and Daniel blocked with all his strength. Each strike drove him backward, each blow shaking his bones, but he refused to fall. The flame behind him flickered, but did not go out. The beast roared and struck harder. Daniel felt pain, fear, and exhaustion. He wanted to give up, but then he thought of Lyra, of Earth, of all the lives that might depend on him. He shouted with all his heart, "I will not let you win." The armor blazed with light, brighter than ever before. Energy surged through him, and his body moved with unstoppable strength. He pushed the beast back, struck with fury, and finally shattered it into fragments of glowing dust. The flame grew brighter, filling the chamber with warm light. The armor spoke. Strength of spirit. Proven. The trials were complete. The chamber walls lowered, and the elders looked down in silence. Some eyes glowed blue with awe, others green with acceptance. The golden-eyed elder who had doubted him the most finally spoke. The trials do not lie. The human is chosen. Lyra ran forward, smiling with relief. You did it. Daniel, you did it. Daniel stood trembling, the armor fading away until he was just himself again. His chest heaved, sweat on his brow, but his heart was steady. I didn't do it alone, he said softly. The armor helped me, and so did you. Lord Kalen stepped forward. His expression, once stern, was now filled with respect. You have proven yourself before the Council and the Ancestors. The Guardian armor has not made a mistake. You are its bearer. Daniel swallowed. But what now? I never asked for this. Kalen's voice grew heavy. The trials were only the beginning. The prophecy warns of a great darkness rising again. We hoped it was only legend. But now, if the armor has awakened, it means the danger is real. And you, human, are at the center of it. Daniel felt the weight of those words. He had come to Kalith as a student hoping to learn. Instead, he had become part of a destiny that spanned centuries. Fear filled him, but so did determination. He looked at Lyra, who nodded firmly, her eyes glowing bright with encouragement. He smiled faintly. Then if this is my role, I'll face it. Not as Kalith, not as anyone's chosen bloodline, but as myself. As human. The council chamber erupted with voices, some doubtful, some hopeful, but one thing was clear. The joke that had begun with a playful dare had changed everything. The Guardian armor had found its bearer. The Caliph people had found an unlikely ally, and Daniel, the human who never saw himself as a hero, had discovered a strength hidden deep within. The true war had not yet begun, but for the first time in centuries, the Caliph had hope. And at the heart of it stood a boy from Earth, chosen not by blood but by spirit.